How you guys doing? Yes, today's video is going to be a banger because we've got some brand new news for you all to do with our girl Metztli and as well Cizin for all of you guys, and it's going to obviously impact potentially where all of these tier lists are going to be, because as you guys should know, I have put Metztli as one of the top tier heroes in the game, to be honest, for specific content, but I don't think she's going to be one of those heroes that you're going to want to use in Godforge quests. But the new changes are quite interesting, and I can't wait to break them down for you guys and kind of maybe adjust even these placements for some of these heroes that we've got on the list after looking at some of the adjustments as we've seen with the imprints too. And I will be making an imprint tier list very, very soon, so you know what to do. Smash a like, comment and subscribe. And I do want to say thank you to everyone that has subscribed. I've hit over 1,000 subscribers, so thank you very much. And you can check out, if you want to, my birthday stream I did do this morning. I did 800 summons and pulled 2 legendaries, but I won't spoil what legendaries or when I got them, so check it out. It was a really fun time, and even Susie dropped by, so a big shout out to Susie for obviously coming and keeping me company during all of the madness. So with that, let's get into the fun stuff. So we've got our girl here, the very first one, Metztli, and this is what she originally looks like. So this is her old kit that you're looking at, just so you can have a reminder of what's going to happen in a moment. So the basic is the 300% attack, and you restore 10% destroyed HP of the ally with the most HP destroyed, right? So this is going to be kind of relevant for very tailored content. We don't know how, obviously, powerful that content's going to be, because you got to imagine if you could pick the best support. Imagine this was the area to get the weapons or imprints. This would be a really insane support to have, just to be able to farm that area alone. But we don't know where this content is going to be, so this is where a lot of the mystery does lie in her. And I think a lot of people agree with me that she is very good at what she does, but we don't know where that content sides on top of your rewards and kind of progression for your account. So when we go to the core ability, the Cycle of Dusk, you remove 2 random disables, 2 random debuffs from all allies, and then you place resistance up to for 2 turns. This is a 6-turn start, and it goes down to 3. This is the first ability that you're going to notice in the update that is going to get a change, so keep an eye on that. With the Twilight Eclipse here saying revive all defeated allies with 5% health, turn me in, and also restores 20% of each ally's destroyed HP and increase their divinity by 20%. With the passive, which is this is the hero's ability, it has 50% chance to spread 1 random buff from heroes to allies. So with everything there is basically the kit that we can see, 20% in all battles. And when we go to the new one, boom, we've got the same 20% in all battles, but you're going to notice some numbers have changed, such as the ultimate numbers. So if we go back to it, we've got 40, 20, 20, as well as the passive being 50%, and now restores 20% of the target's destroyed HP when they receive a buff on the passive. So a complete overhaul change on that. And then the core completely changing too on Metztli here. So now her new core is a 5-turn cooldown instead of the old 6, which is already better, and then it does only go down to 4, but it says remove 2 random debuffs from all allies, then place a block debuff on each target for 2 turns. If you guys are obviously wondering what that means, just to remind you guys, you got to think in the game we've got all of these buffs in there, and then now the debuffs are coming on. So all of these reds that you can see that are all kind of devastating in the game, and there might be more that we haven't been able to see yet, is going to basically be blocked. You get 1 chance of this, so it's obviously going to be on your hero. So if they're going to get banished, they're not going to get banished now, and then that it's going to be removed on them. But this is for 2 turns, so it lasts a decent amount. And what's really good about this is still also healing 20% of allies of your HP, right? And if you look at the back one, she had no healing in her kit, but she did remove disables. So the first thing is, I will say, building a super HP heavy like an Isis is going to be insanely valuable, because you will do massive insane team heals with this core ability. However, is this better than the last one? Well, firstly, I do prefer the random 2 debuffs because it's tailored to one area, and then we're blocking future debuffs, and that is really good for a 2-turn kind of defense wall for your team. However, the one thing I did kind of mention is on my live stream earlier on is with the previous core, you did remove 2 random disables. And the thing is, I always think there needs to be heroes like Metz here that can remove these 2 random disables in the game, because as long as there's enough of these heroes in the game, disable-based teams like an Anubis Despairlock team stays in check, right? You can't abuse this team because there's a hero that can counter that team pretty well, and there's a few of these heroes. So it's a very questionable debate on what's better. I do think this core overall is a better core. I actually think this is a much better hero now, just from the basic and core working how they do together. However, it's just one of those concerns to think about in the future with that disables. Hopefully, there is still ways to counter enough disables in the game, right? So when we go back to the brand new Metz, we can see the ultimate revives all defeated allies with 40% health and turn meter, and also restores 50% of each ally's destroyed HP and increases their divinity by 20%. So if we compare this to before, this was only 20% of each destroyed HP, so it's got a buff, and then the 20% obviously on the divinity. So you can see already much better on there. The same costs as well on the ultimate, so this is definitely a buff on Metz's kit. And then the passive I really do like is restoring 20% of the target's destroyed HP when they receive a buff, because the thing is with Metz and this wording on this passive is you got to think, depending on what team you want to play, even if you run like an Isis Pandora, Metz, and something else, right? Very defensive heavy, but if you're able to keep like stealing these buffs, especially against these bosses, for example, and keep removing all of the destroyed HP, that's a really cool little combination that you can do. It's just obviously something niche that I've thought of right now, but you got to think the way you could be able to get enough buffs even through like men's on your team. This is going to allow you to run like a Metz plus like an Isolde as a rare hero with maybe an epic DPS and an epic defender that you might have pulled later on in your team, and you're gonna have a really strong core for whatever this content is based on. But I do think overall, as we've got into our kind of tier list here, I'm going to keep her where she is. I do think she's really good, but I want to summon her. I'm not saying she's a C tier hero on power. I actually think she's a really powerful hero, and if this was a power tier list, I'd bump her a lot higher. However, this is more about what heroes I am looking for in Godforge quests that kind of are these like jack of all trades, master of none kind of heroes that I know I could put in any team and get as much value out of them as possible. And the thing is, she's going to be probably an excellent invoker in the area she's supposed to be in. We don't know how important that area is. That obviously really does restrict how much value I can put on her. If that content turns out to be some of the best content in the game, you can imagine most people are going to bump this hero all the way up and even into the A tier because of how important potentially that specific content is gonna be, right? So moving on is going to be the next hero in the list here, and this is going to be a fun one because it's a quick one. It's Cizin, and as many people should know, the only thing you need to pay attention to is going to be the very bottom. This is the leader bonus, and this is currently 5% in arena battles, which is fine. It obviously was nice to have in PvP, but they upped on it. I made it 30% attack in dungeon battle. So this is infinitely better because obviously you can now use this in a lot of PvE content where, to be honest, Cizin is gonna be. So you can imagine here, when it comes to Cizin's tier list, I am actually going to bump him up a little bit for this area. And I am actually going to do some adjustments as well for myself when it comes to my tier list for people who are obviously enjoying today's video. So I want to say thank you to all of you. And I want to say thank you for everyone who's been wishing me a happy birthday. It's been a pleasure and it's just overwhelming, but thank you very much. But Cizin, I am going to bump up a quite few spaces, and I am going to make some adjustments here like Sun Wukong, and I'm going to have these two in this equilibrium where I think either one of these DPS are insanely good, right? Athena, because of the changes we've seen with Athena being a healing defender, as well as just being able to have that defense down on a basic, so it just means any type of joint attacks that you can think of in the future also synergizes really well. So she's just like a jack of all trades defender that's going to be just so good for most beginners to play with, right? And the only other thing that I was thinking about is these other heroes. And I do think, again, when I'm like looking at the list, this is looking a lot more fairer on how I was wanting it, right? Because I think all of the DPS options here are all very good, and they all kind of tailor to a different person's, you know, play style and maybe what they want to accomplish with their teams, which I think is very fair enough. While obviously on the top end here is kind of what I prefer in the game at the moment for most beginners, maybe picking it up for the first time as well, and don't want to get too lost in the sauce. So just to kind of recap on today's video, just so you guys can remind everyone what's happened. Basically, Cizin's changes is pretty simple. We have had 40% attack in dungeon battle, so it's a nice little buff we've got on him at the moment compared to his previous one, which is the 40% attack in arena battles, which is a bit more poo-poo. So love that buff, really good buff for the Cizin. And then the new Metztli here, really good hero, and I'm actually gonna look forward to seeing this hero maybe where she shines, because she has an insanely big heal now in that core ability, which is very powerful with the removal of 2 random debuffs and placing that block debuff buff on all of the targets. It says on each target for 2 turns, so that's so powerful for all of the allies for certain content too. And being someone who restores a bunch of destroyed HP is no laughing matter too, with a bit of divinity increase in turn meter. So she does a lot. She does a lot. And one thing I think what's really powerful too, just to give her a bit more love, is that 20% speed in all battles. That was a clutch, having like an assault day with like a 12% speed in all battles. So I would imagine a 20% is also going to be very versatile. So it's going to be interesting to see that compared to the old Metztli that you can see here. Just to remind you guys that one thing that's happening with Godforge, which everyone does love, is the fact that it's always changing. It is always changing. There's going to be updates. There's going to be new hero changes that other content creators are going to be able to provide for you guys. So just save maybe all of your summons until nearer to the end of the 20th of February, when the whole mini Godforge quests finishes, so then you can get the maximum out of your summons. And if it's 2,000, 3,000 summons you've got, whack them all out in that one day or the last 2 days, because then you'll have the most amount of information to you to get probably the most strongest start that you kind of want for your account. So with that, smash like, comment, and subscribe. And if you enjoyed today's video, you know what to do. I will see you next time. So stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.